tertiary institutions has no part in Labor's policy and thinking. That was the message the New South Wales Minister for Education, Mr Newlock, brought to the students at the Newcastle University and CAE today. He says he's entirely committed to upholding the institution's individual role.
How likely is it that the amalgamation between the CAE and the university will take place?
Well, it depends upon the election on Saturday. If Labor wins, it won't take place.
Now, the amalgamation was to be a cost-cutting measure. How does the Labor government intend to cut costs in other ways?
Well, it was suggested that it was a cost-cutting measure by the Liberal government. This has not been admitted by the New South Wales government, nor do we admit that it should take place on educational grounds. And since neither of those propositions have been put forward, I don't think that the Federal Labor government has anything to offer or to answer for in that regard. It's certainly very clear that Labor policy is against the amalgamations, and the amalgamations won't take place here or at Armidale if Labor wins on Saturday.
Thanks, John. Good morning. Another beautiful day coming up, another warm one too. Plenty of blue sky, waves for the board rider, winds from the northeast. Conditions will become choppy once again. It's basically the same picture we've had all week. Waves around 1.2 to 1.5 metres at all the open beaches. The wind onshore from the northeast at around 5 to 8 knots at the moment. Conditions are going to become choppy and bumpy quite early this morning, and the best waves will be found early. Just after low tide, the tide is a little low and conditions will improve over the next 2 or 3 hours with the incoming tide. We'll have a few blue bottles around again today, weed in the southern corners, and best waves will be found in the northern corners, of course. At Dixon Park here this morning we have a severe lack of board riders, but there are guys up towards the cliff where there are a few better waves. For the swimmers, all of our city beaches quite safe, although just keep in mind that there are blue bottles around. Swim between the flags, please. As far as the forecast is concerned, tropical cyclone Eleanor is still moving south, and we have a humid northeast to easterly airflow over New South Wales, and there will be more showers heading for the north coast of New South Wales late today and tomorrow. The forecast for today, a high to very high fire danger, a sultry day tempered on the coast by northeasterly winds at 20 to 40 kilometres per hour. Mostly sunny, seas mainly slight on a low swell. On the outlook for Friday, very warm and humid with a few showers. Newcastle today heading for a top of 30 degrees, Scone expecting 34, Taree 31 degrees. Low tide 7:15 this morning, 0.5 of a metre. High tide at 11 minutes past 1 this afternoon, 1.4 metres. Well, there we have it. Another beautiful day coming up weather-wise, although we could do with some rain in the inland. Waves around the 1.2 to 1.5 metre mark. Reasonably safe conditions for the swimmers. Looks like being a top day. I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back again tomorrow morning.
General salute! Attention! Being the most technical of the armed forces, the RAAF gets few chances to present its traditional side, but as the base turned out today for the annual inspection parade by the Air Officer Commanding, it was obvious the Blues have not forgotten their parade ground discipline. The AOC, Air Vice Marshal Law, has been at Williamtown since Tuesday, and as well as this formal inspection, he's been to every unit on the base discussing particular problems. In his address, the Air Vice Marshal admitted the Air Force is under strength.
The Air Force really needs about 4,000 more people to properly do the task that has been given. Now, there's no way that we're going to get those number of people for very good reasons. People cost money.
The Air Vice Marshal went on to point out that a shortage of money and manpower is something common to defence forces in most democratic countries. The Air Vice Marshal ranked the Australian Air Force as the most efficient in the world.
Second to none. and I'm very proud of all of you.
Although they've seen it all before, even RAAF veterans said today's parade, the early morning sunlight with the strains of the RAAF Operational Command Band sounding across the base, was enough to stir the blood. Makes you want to re-enlist, said one.
It's been announced that up to 1,000 fewer people will be working at the Newcastle Steelworks by May. The fear of unemployment is real, and so apparently are the health problems which go hand in hand.
I need a job, I'm out of work. I'm unemployed, I'm out of work. I need a job, I'm out of work.
The Doctors Reform Society says an overseas study has shown that with every 1% rise in unemployment, there's a large jump in the incidence of heart disease and cirrhosis of the liver. Are these ailments showing up in local unemployed people?
In my experience, I would think mostly there'd be problems of anxiety and stress. Stress in some way, which is rather obscure, tends to lead to an increase in heart problems. It may be that it's through changes in dietary habit. Possibly somebody who's unemployed may be less active than they were, and there's evidence that inactivity tends to raise one's blood cholesterol.
And what of the middle-aged worker who turns to drink after finding himself suddenly retrenched?
Then he will tend to get his social supports at the pub and possibly start to drink a lot more than he's used to drinking. Now, if his liver's already dicky, then he may well get liver damage fairly quickly.
%.
Tomorrow night, the New South Wales Formula 500 Championship will be featured, with over 45 entries received from all over New South Wales, the ACT, Victoria and Queensland, with Singleton driver Lloyd Thornley a firm favourite. Other contenders also include locals Graham Baxter, Robert Harding and Brad Cameron, who was involved in a spectacular crash a fortnight ago. Also tomorrow night, the Junior New South Wales Sidecar Championship will be held, with another local rider, Doc Falk, the firm favourite, after his performance in the Open title a fortnight ago, when selected only as a reserve. Saturday night, the Winged Monsters will be let loose in their state championship, with Gary Rush, the current Australian champion, all set to once again capture the double crown he held last year. The Grand National sedans will also feature on the program, with some very tough racing expected from the big tin tops before the running of their Win Sedan Classic next week. After their one-win, one-loss trip away last weekend, the Falcons players realised that every win is very, very important to make it through to the 1983 finals. All the players were doing their individual work, such as George Morrow, and the players were really starting to work hard at training. One of the players that had a great trip away last weekend was Mike Johnson, but as he says, he wasn't entirely happy with his form.
If I would have got 30 on the Sunday, maybe, I had 18 at half-time and 2 in the second half, maybe.
You're playing Hobart here on Saturday night. Do you know much about Hobart?
Not really, only that they had lost to St Kilda by just one last week. And, they've beaten Devonport by 30-odd, and they have a couple of good Americans, and they're pretty tall, and they'll be tough.
How's the team coming together now in continuity?
Good. I think everyone's, we played together last year, and everyone's happy, and they're happy with each other's form, and really it's coming on really well.
In the first match of the Cup tie, Argentina versus the United States, the evergreen Guillermo Vilas was pitted against America's Gene Mayer. Vilas is always hard to beat on his home ground, and he crushed Mayer in straight sets 6-3, 6-3, 6-4. The second match between superstar John McEnroe and Jose Luis Clerc was a more desperate affair. Clerc took the first two sets 6-4, 6-love, but McEnroe fought back to take the next two. When bad lights stopped play in the final set, Clerc was leading 5-2, and it will take a big effort from McEnroe to win and even up the tie at 1-all.
Rutherford today was no place for exotic multi-engined aircraft. Today, the single-engine Blighty was king, as more than 40 pilots flying aircraft that ranged from 50-year-old Tiger Moths to the latest aerobatic types contested the Australian Light Aircraft Championships. Individual events included aerobatics, streamer cutting and spot landing, and it was this event that brought the enthusiasts crowding to the end of the runway to judge the skill of their peers. Their aircraft skimmed in over a string and toilet paper fence to get the wheels on the ground in as short a distance as possible. Every bounce lost 10 points. At least one pilot scored a bogey 30 points.
That was a good one.
An aircraft which attracted a lot of attention today was the Robin Sport, a Canadian-built aerobatic two-seater competing in Australia for the first time. A French design that's some years old, the Robin is being built in Canada at the rate of 75 a year, specifically for the American and Australian market. Described as a flying sports car, the two-seater costs just $54,000.
Well, thanks, Lee. This is where it will all happen tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. The running of the 1983 Penfolds Classic, a race for 2-year-olds over 1,200 metres. Prize money of $40,000, and this will assure the winner of a start in the Golden Slipper Stakes at Rosehill on the 26th of this month. There are 3 scratchings at the moment, and that's March Magic, Fairy Wings and Read All About It, but we'll still have a full field of 14 with the emergencies going in. There's 2 horses engaged tomorrow that come from Newcastle, and that's Dollar, trained by Bubby Johnson, and French Tip, trained by Maxie Lees. I spoke to Max and Bubby today about their chances. Max, last year didn't have much luck with High Reserve. He went out favourite. This year you got French Tip. What do you think of your chances?
Oh, well, I think he's got a good each-way chance. It's probably a little bit short for this horse. I think he wants further, but on this track, the big long straight, it should suit him all right.
So you think it really needs something, well, you will bypass the Golden Slipper and put in the size produce?
Yes, most likely running the size produce, or there's another mile race on around about that time. I might run him in that.
I suppose it would change your mind if he did win this and go straight into the slipper without having to qualify.
Well, probably would. Being such good prize money, probably the owners would want to run him, I'd say, if he happened to win tomorrow.
Max, a fair contingent of horses coming from Sydney, been there, very disappointing beaten odds on favourite last start. Do you think he can handle this long straight here?
Been there, well, it won a barrier trial pretty easy on Friday, so it must have been something wrong the other day when it raced at in Sydney the other day, because it's come out and won the trial since. So I've seen it win the Silver Slipper, and I think that it's a pretty smart horse.
Yeah, very smart horse. So 56 kilos, you don't think it'll be a burden?
Yes, I'd say it's 56 kilos, a lot of weight, and the challenge, I think, is the horse to beat.
Bubby, the big one over at Newcastle tomorrow. You've got $1 in. What's his chances?
Real good each way chance.
Real good each way chance. What price do you think you'll be?
Oh, it's hard to say. All depends if Bean there starts, he should be an each way price.
Should be an each way price. He's been pretty consistent in his 3 runs. He's been 3 placings. Yeah. He hasn't had a start for a while.
A while, yeah. About 7 weeks, I think.
And do you think that's going to affect him at all?
I don't think so.
What about the 1200 metres?
He'll run the 1200.
Run it right out?
Yeah.
He's boy Nam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big chance tomorrow.
Yeah. He's a half brother to a big circle. He won 7 at Randwick, including the tramway handicap.
Well, that speaks for itself.
He's half brother to the King Circle. He won the Thunderbolt Stakes, so it's a good family.
All looks well for the Penfolds Classic at Broadmeadow tomorrow. It's the extra trifecta race, and my selection's are number 4, the Challenge, to beat the daughter of Luskin Star, number 8, Lotka Star, and I'll put in number 1, Bean there, because it is a very, very class off for your trifecta. Now, the daily double on races 6 and 8. The first leg is the TAA Racecallers Handicap, or the Cup, and it's over 1,500 metres. I think Alder Lad can win this. It's TAB number 3. And in race 8, your trifecta race, the numbers are 3, 6 and 4. Regal Bye to beat all the aces, and Pindale. Well, that's it for me tonight. The place to be tomorrow, Broadmeadow Racecourse.
Thanks, John. Good morning. We've had a bit of fog along the coastline here this morning, and unfortunately that southerly change that we were expecting is not going to arrive. It was a little bit weak and it dissipated on the south coast during the night, so it's going to be hot, sultry and mainly sunny. Around the beaches this morning, might mention a big day coming up for the beach because of all this sunshine. Waves are very small, around 1 metre at the open beaches. The swell's still slightly from the northeast, what swell there is. If you'd like to go for a swim today, all of our city beaches are quite safe. A great day coming up for the swimmers. Not too good for the board riders though. Those waves are just a little small. The wind's very, very light on shore from the northeast at the moment. Conditions are going to become quite choppy and bumpy during the day. Best waves will be found sometime during this morning. I don't think they're going to be all that exciting as a matter of fact. As far as the weather's concerned today, the forecast, high to very high fire danger, hot and sunny inland, sultry and mostly sunny near the coast. Northeast winds at 20 to 40 kilometres per hour on the coast, seas choppy in the afternoon on a low swell. And the outlook for Wednesday, hot northwesterly winds with a late, cool, squally change from the south. Newcastle today heading for a top of 30 degrees, Scone heading for a top of 36. Low tide this morning will be at 10:43.6 of a metre. High tide 4:37 this afternoon, 1.1 metres. Well, that's our look at the surf this morning. Not too much happening, small waves for the board riders. Conditions are just so-so. Not too exciting at all. If you'd like to go for a swim, the beaches are all looking great. Now there is a cooler southerly change on the way. It's coming from the Bight at the moment, and hopefully we're going to get it tomorrow night. Have a great day. It's going to be a hot one. We'll be back again tomorrow morning.
Hazel Evans devoted her life to music and to nurturing young talent. That work is to be continued through the scholarship that has been established in her honour. Almost $1,000 was contributed to the scholarship fund by local clubs and individuals. Today, that money was handed over to the principal of the Newcastle Conservatorium, Mr Michael Dudman, by the Lord Mayor of Newcastle, Alderman Joy Cummings.
It's a great pleasure to present these cheques to you. I know that you've spent a lot of time and work drawing up the scholarship. It's not just as simple as it sounds, a scholarship, and I thank you for all that time and effort that you've put into it.
The first Hazel Evans Memorial Scholarship will be awarded next year. Auditions will be granted to any person under 21, and the successful applicant will receive a year's tuition at the Newcastle Conservatorium.